Hey guys, we're about to go into the more in-depth version of the After Effects tutorial for Hang Your Friend from a Tower. If you haven't seen the main video yet, click here for our Studio 2 Magic page. This is our Studio 2 Magic Extras page where we do longer, less scripted stuff. Anyway, let's get right to it. Okay, I'm gonna go through how to track this and put the green screen clip in it. I'm not gonna go much into color and everything. I'm gonna try to keep this pretty quick. So the first thing I wanna do is get my footage that I wanna use inside of there. So I'm in After Effects and I have that clip in there. And then my other clip is Grant hanging. I'm also going to get that clip put in there. The first thing I'm going to do is work with this clip of Grant and get it ready to put it in the composition. So I'm going to get the pen tool and we're going to mask him out. I'm just going to go pretty wide, but I am going to make this bar longer. Stick outside the green screen, that is. So I'm going to go to about here and then we'll just come back inside the green screen. I'll go pretty wide on the mask. I want to have that bar sticking out a little bit on the other side past the green screen, so I'm going to go ahead and mask it out if I can find it. I'm going to make that a little bit rounded on the end, come back inside the green screen, and then I can go back to a rough matte here. Okay, I'm just going to scrub through this footage a little bit, make sure he doesn't go outside of the mask. His knee almost goes out. I'll pull that down just a little bit. But that looks pretty good. He does jump down at the end. But that's good. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and set up the key. I'm going to use Primat Keyer 6. You can pull this key with a, key light in After Effects. I'm going to use the auto define, and it usually gets me a pretty good starting place. I'm going to switch from show comp to show matte, and then I'm going to start cleaning the backgrounds. I'm going to select the rectangular tool and then the clean background. I'll scrub through a little bit and just see if I see anything. I'll get a spot where I can kind of see a little bit of hair. Yeah, like that. I'm going to switch it back to comp view, and this line around his edge, I don't like it, but I like the hair pretty good. Sometimes I'll separate these and do the hair in another, I'll make a duplicate and do the hair separately. But in this case, I'm going to just shrink the mat a little bit until I get rid of that line around him. Oh, and we need to kill the green. So I need to do the spill killer. So I'm going to enable spill killer for green and then shrink that matte. I'm going to give just a little bit of a matte blur on this, and that'll help just trim out the rest of that to where we don't have an outline. His hair, we lost a little bit of hair, but that's only going to be on that frame. I don't think it'll really show up. I think most of this will look fine though once we put it in the composition. We can tweak it a little bit from there. So I'm going to go back to the composition. Now, I imported this from Premiere Pro. So I did a replace with After Effects composition, and so I'm working in Premiere Pro in 1920 by 1080. This clip is actually 4K, so my scale is 50%. But if I try to do a camera track on this and this is 4K and the composition is 2K, it's not going to work. It has to match. So I'm going to go to composition settings and switch that to a 4K, hit OK, and then I can scale it on up to 100%. And then now I'm going to do a camera track. So I'm just going to right click the clip, choose track and stabilize, go to camera track, and in advanced I'm going to turn on detailed analysis because it's going to need it in this. I've already played with this a little bit, and with the camera flying away the way it does, doing a detailed analysis will really help. So we'll just wait for this to finish. Okay, so our camera track is finished. It's solved the camera track, and all these little X's and stuff are really small right now, so I'm going to turn those up. And there's some down on the ground, you can see those too, but we're gonna be mostly interested in this one right here. But first I wanna make a camera and a null, and I'm gonna do that right down here on the ground. I'm gonna grab this flat surface and let it generate. I'm gonna go ahead and create a null and a camera for that. So now we have our camera. All right, so this is a platform up on the top of this thing that's and it's got a safety rail around it. And I want to make it as if the bar that Grant is hanging on is coming out right there at the bottom of the platform where you would stand. So I'm most interested in this point right here. So I'm going to click it and create a null. And I'm going to scale that null up just a little bit so I can see it a little bit better. Now I can bring in my footage of Grant here. I'm going back to the beginning of it. Copy, move over here and paste it in there. I need to make it into a 3D layer. So I click on the 3D, and then I need my position, scale. Actually, all I need from this is the position. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the position of the null. I'm copying the position of that null, and I'm going to paste it into the position of Grant. And he's really big, so I'm going to scale that down to, I think it was about, I've been looking at this before, and about 15 or so %. Let's go with 16. He might be just slightly too big, but I want him to be that much more visible. So then we can go into the rotation and the anchor. Rotation and anchor points are the main things I'm going to be looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate him around to where he's kind of in line with this bar. But I'm going to move him using the anchor point because the anchor point is locked onto that null object. So if I move the position, I could break that lock. So I want to use only the anchor point and move him around to where that bar is coming out. The anchor point is right there on that null, and I want to make it where the edge of the bar is right there on that anchor point. And that's pretty close. So now if I rotate him, it rotates him on the anchor point, and I can really work to try to get that as straight as possible, that this line is straight through there. It actually looks like I could go just a little bit more maybe. I think I want him a little more centered in frame, so I'm going to take these two points on the mask and move that back and then re-anchor him. Oops. Now he's just a little more centered in the frame. This will already work. He'll track down and stay on the bar will stay pretty connected, but the railing ends up going in front of the bar. So we're gonna have to mask that. I'm going to manually mask that out, and I'll do it in time lapse, but I'm gonna duplicate my layer of the background and put it on top, and I'm going to get rid of the camera tracker information for that, and I'm going to just build a quick mask on this bar, which this bar is what will pass over the bar that he's hanging on. This rail will pass over that bar. I'm just gonna manually mask that out all the way through, and we'll just do this on a time lapse. So I'll hit the stopwatch on the mask position and get started. Okay, so that's the masking work done. I turned off the layer of Grant so that it was just so I could go a little faster. So that bar is kind of just set up right at the edge, right like it's coming out right where that bolt was. And I'm going to put a little feather on the mask, just so it's not quite that sharp. I may just go with 1. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So at this point, I could render this out and it will play. Before I do that, I'm going to do a little tiny bit of a color grade. He just seems, I'm gonna go get Lumetri color, and I'm just gonna tone down the, I'm gonna tone down the temperature just a little bit. I'll go way too far first. That's way too far. And we'll kind of in between there. I'm gonna bring up the brightness in his hair just a little bit. Whoops, that's highlights. I need to do shadows. That's good enough. Let's render this. I'm going to do I actually have this all set up in Premiere Pro. I have to change my scale. Since this is now a 4K After Effects clip in a 1920 by 1080 sequence, I need to go ahead and scale that back down. Let's scale it up just a little bit though. Maybe about there. And I'm going to go ahead and render this out, and we'll take a look at it. Hey, got a quick tip. You know how if you go to the store and how disappointing it is when you get a piece of chocolate that looks like that? You just take the damaged chocolate, get some way to hold it so you don't burn yourself, and you just give it a nice glaze on top, melt that chocolate back, and then it'll look good again. All right, so here's the clip as it's rendered. Other than needing some color correction and some color grading, it's not bad. So you can spend some time and take this to the next level, really get some, get the color to match a little bit better, and then put an overall color grade. I'll just pop something on there right now. We'll do an adjustment layer at the very top. I'm just gonna pull in looks, magic bullet looks onto that adjustment layer, and just grab something. I kind of like this one. It's got a diffusion in it that helps blend it all together. So at this point, you could continue to tweak this shot and play with the colors, get it all looking the way you want. But we now have the actor on the green screen locked to the platform, and everything's tracked in the camera. So yeah.